WCVG. 1320thevoice.com. This is the voice of Cincinnati. You're the voice of Cincinnati. Kaye.
Yeah. Okay, let's do it.
Let's do it.
Okay, this is Frank.
Right. Good afternoon. You're listening to 1320 AM WCVG, The Voice. This is another episode of OKaye, Let's Be Frank. I am Frank, and this is Kaye.
Hey, good afternoon, everybody. I almost pulled a Frank and say good morning.
Do it. It's fine.
How is everybody out
Morning
there in Radio
somewhere.
Land? Yeah, it's
Sure.
somewhere. If you're in Texas, it's still morning.
Right.
It's still just 11 o'clock.
Owensboro, where I'm from, and anybody watching from Owensboro, give me a shout out there. It'd be great. Anywho, so yeah, good morning, good afternoon. What do you say? Good morning, and in case I don't see you, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.
Good night. Right. I'm in the good night stage right here, right now, today. I am so sleepy for some reason. I don't know what's going on. I overslept an hour. My alarm clock was not on. Overslept this morning.
Today's day is all off.
It is thrown off. I've had 3 cups of coffee and I still can't get on my way.
Jeez, nice.
It's crazy. I'm just
Dragging along. Hey, it's my first cup of coffee. I had a cup of coffee yesterday, and I swear to goodness, I don't know what was in that stuff. But man.
Did it get you going?
I didn't even finish it.
Oh.
Oh my goodness. I've been writing this thing because part of our business ventures that we're doing. I'm kind of like writing scripts and writing different things, you know what I mean? And sitting there drinking that coffee, and I was like, oh, there it is. And just creativity was just all this bunch of stuff. So I just got on the iPad.
All
You know what I
right.
mean, man? Went to town a little bit. It was pretty cool,
That's
man.
awesome.
But then, like, I couldn't shut it off. So I'm all like, I called everybody, made a dentist appointment. I did all type of stuff yesterday.
What? I slept. I slept yesterday, actually. Dalton went to school. I got up, took him to school. I've got something going on with my eye. I don't know what it is, but it's all red. See, can you see it's red? Yesterday it was so red and irritated that I couldn't even hardly keep it open. Driving Dalton to school was atrocious. Anyway, so when I got back from taking him to school yesterday morning, I went back to bed and I slept until 11:30 yesterday.
Yeah?
Yeah. It wasn't until I got a text that woke me up. I was like, whoa, what is going on? I'm just exhausted. I don't know what's up.
Brother Albert Diaz, my man from down south, down in El Paso.
El Paso.
Brother Al. Speaking of that, Brother Al, I got to give a big shout out to my man, Al Watts. Every time I say that, I think we're coming to America. Anyway. Mr. Al Watts he's a deacon at New Hope Christian Center and the owner of Victory Janitorial Services. They do commercial cleaning, sanctuaries, auditoriums, those types of things, what have you. Don't let floors be your chore. Call your pal Al, 859-802-0473. Again, that's my man Al Watts. Owner of Victory Janitorial Services. Don't let floors be your chore. Call your pal Al at 859-802-0473. Anyway, so yeah, that was pretty cool.
Yeah.
Shout out to my man Aquarius for throwing us a donation last week.
Absolutely.
Appreciate that. Donations and sponsorships and all that are welcomed at any time.
That's right.
Anytime.
Send your donations into WCVG, care of OKaye, Let's Be Frank, 138 West 35th Street, Covington, 38th Street, Covington, Ohio. Or Covington, Kentucky. I don't even know what I'm doing. Forget what I said.
It's all good. Keep it going.
Try this again. Maybe I should write that down before I just try to spit it out, right?
Hilarious.
Scratch that. I'm asleep.
Write this down. Take a little note
Yeah.
to remind yourself in case you didn't know.
Mm.
Anyway. Now you got it started.
Yeah, right, right. Way to go. You put the quarter in the jukebox, man.
All right.
Somebody pull this string. Anyway, yeah, we if you want to join and partner with Okay, Let's Be Frank Ministry, we have a lot of things going on. There's going to be some videos coming out soon. There's going to be podcasts. Quite a few things God is doing, but we need your help. We can't do it by ourselves. So if you want to send out some donations, I mean, anything works. $5 works for us. Please help us out. We are in need.
Absolutely.
But by the grace of God, we get through it.
We're getting it. We're getting it.
Man, it's so funny. So, like, as I was praying today and yesterday, tax time is upon us.
Yes.
So I really want to get your take, and I love when Jeff was in the studio with us because like he throws a lot of knowledge on me that I don't know. So I'm wondering. So this whole thing about taxes came about recent years. You know what I mean? Within the last 100 years, right? There was the Stamp Act over in England or whatever, the Tea Party and all that. But the whole reason the Boston Tea thing happened was because of the Stamp Act. And they were like, you're not going to tax the people, blah, 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 these types of things. In biblical times, there were tax collectors.
Right.
So if there was such a big deal about the Stamp Act and collecting taxes and things over here, do you know, Brother Jeff, like how taxes were established and what that was about?
I believe it was in 1913. They had like a Federal Reserve Act, and out of that, I believe, came the payroll taxes.
So was that was a world thing?
No, that's a U.S.
A U.S. thing.
Yeah, there's always been taxes, but the question is it too much taxes? Because
yes,
the government. Well, the answer is yeah. Basically, it's whether or not they overtax. That's when people, like the Stamp Act, the colonies said, that's enough, I'm not going to pay anymore. Okay, and then the Revolutionary War came from it. But there's always been taxes, and there's always been a need for, if you have the government to regulate the system, that there's always a need for some kind of taxation. It's
right.
Whether or not it's fair.
So the taxation. So back in the day, there was, I guess, the Romans were in power and all that. So they were the ones that were establishing the taxes.
Mm-hmm.
That's correct.
Whoever the governmental agency is at the time.
And then they would send out their people to go collect taxes.
Right.
And the corruption, there was corruption back then. So they would try to get some on top of what was owed to
right.
the czar or king or whatever at the time.
Mm-hmm.
Just wondering about that because, like, everybody, it's so funny. January hits, and it's like tax time. It's such a big thing. And I remember back in, I couldn't tell you the year, George W., Little George was president, and he threw out that stimulus package.
Mm-hmm.
Remember, everybody got a check.
Right.
Frank even got a check. That was crazy. Like, what? Nobody could touch it. Nothing. It couldn't be garnished or nothing. This was your money.
Mm-hmm.
What was the deal with that? Was that it was supposed to stimulate economy,
right?
But doesn't that boost, like the ceiling, like the minimum wage or whatever? With inflation, doesn't that boost inflation?
Well, it can, and that's where the Federal Reserve Act came in, because the Federal Reserve Bank basically monitors the money supply. So it tries to curtail inflation. But on the other hand, you need the taxation return, the refunds, like the stimulus plan you're talking about. They also had that Q1, Q2, Q3 during the Obama administration. Mm-hmm. And that was basically they printed money, okay, to be distributed out. But what that did was it devalued the money to a certain degree. The more money you have, the less any particular dollar is worth, mm-hmm. right? So they did these stimuluses to get out of the recession that occurred in 08 and 09 from all the banking issues and all that, mm-hmm. right? So they printed money to help stimulate the economy that way. Now that creates issues too with the money supply and what it's worth.
Right.
That's why prices of things actually went up a bit. So if you had a Big Mac for $3, then it was $3.40 or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Because the dollar was worth less money because there were more of them.
Right.
So that's why prices went up a bit, but people had more money in the system to work with.
That's crazy. It's crazy how people see this time of year. This is like, you have Black Friday, kind of starts everything out because people go spend a lot of money. And Black Friday is business time of the year for them to get out of the red, what they owe, and get back into the black is basically where that term comes from. That's why they slash prices and throw out all types of deals, because we just need to sell all this product and get rid of our inventory and all that so we can get back in the black. But we start spending. And then we look forward for some of this money to come back that we've paid into all year. But I just it's not really taught to save money throughout the year to where like tax time isn't as big of a necessity, I guess.
Well, and the last year or so, they increased the standard deduction. It used to be like $4,500 or something. Now it's $12,000.
I don't know what that means.
Yeah, well, on the standard deduction, you can deduct that from your income. So you add up all your income, and you take a standard deduction of $12,000 off of that. That's when you start getting taxed on whatever's after that. Okay? So you can take that deduction. I'm not a tax person, but basically that helps.
Yeah.
It's better than subtracting $4,500.
True.
Right.
And then they had the exemptions too before. Now they just basically do the standard deduction and you're done. But the best scenario I've heard is that the less refund you get, the better, because you get to keep the money during the year. So if you change your withholding or whatever so that you don't get a big giant check back, but you get to keep the money all year long. They take less out of the tax in your check.
Right. So I don't know which one would be better. I would think that you get, because you still get taxed on your tax.
Correct. But if they take out less taxes, like if you know that you're not going to be have a high tax rate, then you don't need to take out extra money, because you'll get it back, but you might get $1,500 back, but you could have had much of that money all year long.
Right. That's what I mean. Like, if they're going to tax the tax at the end of the year, you might as well just take the small tax incrementally.
To cover it.
Right.
To cover the tax it'll be at the end of the year, but not overtake it out, so that the government takes the money for the whole year and you don't actually get it back till the next April or whenever they process it.
Yeah. All I know is we have to do it, so I do it. Do what we have to do because we have to do it, and
you
that's
want
the way it goes.
You want to consult a tax professional as to how you should set up your withholding and all that type of thing.
Right.
For what's best for you.
I don't know. That's crazy. Well, I appreciate the input there. Couldn't tell you anything about it really. Like I go to this place and hand them some papers, and they tell me if I got to pay or I get something.
Right?
Yeah.
But then Sarah gets it, so I don't really even it's like,
use all that. But
right.
Yeah, but the good thing, even though Sarah gets it, is that goes towards credit, towards what you owe. So it's not money out of your pocket that way.
Right.
You may not be getting.
It's still a
something,
good thing.
It's
just that I never see it.
Right.
So.
Now, I would say this though: it depends on the person whether they're a saver or not. Okay, if you don't save money, if you just spend as you get, then it's probably good that you get the bigger check at the end of the year.
Yeah.
Okay, because if you don't save that extra money each paycheck, when it comes to the end of the year, you don't have the money to pay the tax.
Right.
Okay, now if you're a saver, if you're a person that, okay, I get an extra $25 in my check every time because I didn't take it out, if I save it, then that's great.
Right.
Okay, but you don't want to end up at the end of the year owing money
Right.
and you don't have it to pay it. So it all depends on what kind of person you are too, as far as the money,
Right.
how you handle it.
I've always been the type that overpays tax. I just always be like, okay, this is the price, and I'm going to pay extra to make sure I don't have to pay back in. And then it makes me have a bigger check generally at the end of the year.
So it kind of depends on the person
Sure.
about the best way to do it for you.
Right.
For sure. Not much of a. I'm just now getting into the whole like saving thing, so I'm kind of new into that. Like, it's working out pretty good.
It's hard to save when you are in the position of working paycheck to paycheck.
True.
And when paycheck to paycheck is all you got to make ends meet, it's really hard for you to save. You may have the spirit and the want to save. I have the spirit and the want to save, and I was able to save some money up over this last 6 months because I knew coming in January was going to be a short month for me because of Dalton being out of school. And it was a good thing I did save. But with that, I'm broke. So what I saved, I literally just saved enough to get me through the month.
You know, one of the best ways to do that really is, everybody says, try to save 10%. If you can't do that, you can do 1%. You can do $5. Okay, you create a savings account and you throw whatever you can at the beginning, okay, of when you get the check, not at the end.
Right.
Okay, then you don't overspend on things, at the beginning of the check, and then the check lasts longer, and you've still got the $5 or $10 or whatever you put in the savings account that's sitting there.
Right.
Now you try not to touch it if you can help it, only for an emergency. But if you take it out at the beginning, you're better off.
Right.
Frank used to say, my grandfather, he used to say, you put $10 a week in an account and don't touch it. So you retire when you're 40. And he says, well, that was back, I don't know what retirement money looks like back then or what in the world. I was thinking of, I don't know what retirement money looks like, or retirement age is 67, right?
Some are 6 months.
Something like that. They say, and somebody wrote on Facebook the other day, retirement age is, sorry.
We have a bug, people. We have a bug.
There's a bug. There's a bug flying
around.
Retirement age was 66, 67, whatever. And then the average age expectancy, I think, was like 79 or something. So they say you got like 12 years left, basically,
on
like,
average,
where you don't have to work. And I'm like, that doesn't say you work all this time to live for.
Right.
Right.
Usually by the time you're 60-something, you're already dealing with some type of health issue or something. Anyway. So, I don't know. It kind of.
But money is one of the biggest subjects that the Bible talks about. Actually, other than like salvation and that, money is a big thing in the Bible. There's a lot of scripture about it.
Well, all right. So at New Reality, we were talking about the tithing aspect, right? And I want to say it's Matthew 20:22, something like that. But that was, you give your 10% of your first fruits, and but it also says, and this is where people get it confused. It's like people try to substitute. Like if I donate 10% of my earnings, say I donate it for pizzas on a Friday night to feed people at New Reality, then I don't have to tithe it because it's not 10%. And I don't think that the Bible states it like that.
Right. I don't think that's
I think that you are obligated for your 10% just out of obedience, but you are supposed to go above and beyond that because that's what a child of God would do.
Right. Right.
That's the way that I hear it and
10%,
understand it.
Right. And then anything above that,
It's
then
an
if
offering.
you wanted to do, right, is an offering.
Tithes and offerings.
Right.
Yes. Makes
Right.
sense.
Absolutely.
Makes sense. Thank you.
That always
I don't
hurt
know exactly
too. That you tithe your first 10%, you save your second 10%. The
Right.
80% takes
It's
care of
what
itself.
you live on. Right.
Because God can give you wisdom of how to make the 80% act more like 100%.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
You know,
The idea is to learn how to use money as a tool and not as a commodity. You have to make it work for you. How you do that, I don't know yet, but I'm trying to learn how to make my money work for me.
it is a learning process. You know,
Well, it's things that, and this is like things that I've really been talking about here lately, and things that God is showing me is that everything that you need to survive, everything that God made, you're supposed to be sustainable for yourself, right?
Mhm.
So that means all your thoughts and ideas are okay. They're there for a reason. So when you think about like eating healthy, or maybe actually cook at home, or maybe blah blah blah, and you see how that transposes over to money.
Right,
When you stay at home and you buy groceries, how much do you save?
a
Right.
lot.
You save a ton of money.
Mhm.
When you start taking care of yourself in the long run, you save a lot of money. You're not going to the doctor and buying medications and all this much stuff all the time. So these things that we know, they're there for a reason. We just don't do them.
right.
You know what I mean? And then we complain, but it's ultimately up to us what we're going
And
to.
that is just a way that we are putting ourselves as God instead of God as God, because we do what we want to do with what we deem that we earned and that we did it, and we're going to do it our way. And then most of the time, in most cases, it don't work out the way we're supposed to do it, as far as
Well, and if you think about it, think about how humans act. We are very, whether you like to believe it or not, you're very flexible. You know,
Mhm.
think about the weather. The weather goes from 90 to 30 to 60 to 20 or whatever, and you keep your coat on standby. You didn't put it up yet. You know what I mean? Now you have your coat. You may have some sweats or maybe some short pants still out. You haven't put them up yet because you're going to be flexible.
Mhm.
Right.
So the average human can be flexible. So you think about if you were to take the first 10%, and that's your tithe. This is God, I'm being obedient. Wow. Well, like you said with the $5, you're not really gonna miss it. It's off the top.
Mhm.
And I think that's why it's designed that way. You take it off the top and then you put back the next 10%
Right.
for
Right.
something that may happen. Somebody may run into your car or whatever it may be. And then once you have that set amount, you're flexible. So you go from what you were doing to what has to be done now, and you make it work. If you lose a job, or if we have to take a cut in pay, very few people are just going to, oh God, I can't do it. It's not it. That may be the initial reaction, but people are flexible and they change their habits to fit what they have. So if we're doing this for God and understanding that God is bigger than our job or our situation, then that last 80%,
Right.
that
The
can
Bible
flourish.
says, make a vision and write it down, make it plain. Okay, so a budget is a good idea. Sit down. How much income do you have? How much is due? How much is the different bills that you have? And then see what it is, and say, you know what, I spend a little too much eating out, or buy too much clothing, or whatever it might be. I could cut that down 10 or 20%.
Right.
On the discretionary expenses, not the main expenses like rent and your car and that type of thing. Those are things that are there, but other things, probably 30% of that money is discretionary, and you don't have to spend all of it.
It's so funny when I used to sell cars, and this was one of my biggest sales tactics. When people, oh, I don't have the money, I can't do this. Okay, I turn a piece of paper over. You list me everything that has to be paid. Your rent, your insurance, those type, not food, not just yet, just what has to be paid, those bills. Blah, blah. So then we go over to what are some expenses that you need but aren't have to? Toilet paper, paper towels, toothpaste, toothbrush, hygiene products, those types of things. You need those, but they're not absolutely dire, you know what I mean? Dire straits. So then I go to expendable. the expendable column. How much you spend on technology, your phones, eating out, just going on trips, whatever, how much you spend there. And then you find, once you have that column, you write out that whole income thing. And you're like, so what could you put in place of this? Or what could you take away so that you can make this payment? And if we're talking about where you wanted to be, say you came at me and you said you wanted a $250 payment. Well, this car payment's $300 a month. Well, you get all the bells and whistles that you want, and we're talking about $50. So you go over here to your expendables column.
Mhm.
Is there something that you could cut out
Mhm.
that makes you that makes you have that $50? 9 times out of 10, it's yes.
Right,
For sure.
it is. But this is the other thing. In this scenario, you're trying to sell and replace those things with another item, right?
True.
You could also save some of that stuff instead.
True.
Take that same amount of money, $50, put it in the savings, right?
Right.
True.
Eventually, over time, you could buy the car with cash,
Truth.
okay? Or whatever you need.
Mhm.
But basically, that's how you can save. Look at that discretionary income that you have and say, you know, do I need the elite package of the TV or could I get by with the preferred?
Truth.
Do I have to have unlimited talk on my phone or could I get by with something else? You know?
Right.
So you look at all the different things and say, you know, I could cut back on some of these things.
Right.
And you're saving money.
Very much so. Very much so. And that takes one of the things that we've been talking about lately is taking a look at yourself and what do you really do? And technology has taken over so much they $10 you to death.
They do.
Mm-hmm.
We were talking. She was at the phone store, and told her how much it was going to be for your bill, and then you want to pay for a new phone or whatever. And then it was like, oh well, you can have this service, man. It's only $9.99, blah blah blah, so just for $10 more. And oh, it doesn't sound bad, but if you say it's only $10 more 5 times,
Mm-hmm.
Right.
$50.
Right.
You know what I mean?
That's right.
And so when we think about, we download these apps, 99 cents, not a big deal. You know what I mean? Oh, this one's $3.99. This one is, oh, I gotta have this, I gotta have that. Oh, the candy bar is only 89 cents or whatever, blah blah blah. Those nickel and dime things
And
is
So
what.
think about all of our streaming services: $6.99, $10.99,
Right.
$9.99, $16.99. You know what I mean? I pay more, probably not more, but probably equal to a cable bill in
Mhm.
streaming services
that's right.
because I have, instead of
More than
having
one.
cable, I have streaming services.
Mhm.
And so really my entertainment bill, because that's what streaming services is higher than what it could be if I just had cable probably.
If
You
you
know,
think
just
about
depends.
it, and I mean, this is, there's been a little bit of inflation between this time, but if you think about, right, your parents' time, the rotary phone and the cable at the house, right?
Right.
The phone bill and the cable bill, 2 separate things. You're probably talking about $50 a month,
Right.
Back in those days, which is probably equivalent to about 80 now, right?
Right.
So, if you've got 4 apps on your phone and you've got 4 streaming services,
Right.
then you're paying for your phone,
Mm-hmm.
and then you want to add a line for your kids,
Pay for internet.
pay for your internet and your router and all that. You're already talking $1.50.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
It's they get you with this talk of, well, it's just $10 more. It's just $10 more. Well, just the difference of what you would pay. Blah,
But you
blah,
went to 5 stores and they gave you $10 more. You know.
It's crazy. It's crazy. So we have to really look at ourselves and how much do we really buy into these I'm gonna call it a sales tactic.
Right.
It sounds great, but you have to educate yourself. We have an election that's coming up, and I am not looking forward to all these campaign ads and the pointing fingers and all this bunch of crap that's about to come with this. But the fact of the matter is, I saw a picture of 2 newspapers, the same newspaper, same day, same year, but they were released in different parts of the country, and they had 2 different headlines.
Really?
Yeah,
Not
I knew I
surprised.
should have taken a picture.
Wow.
I knew I should have taken a picture of it. But it was Donald Trump, and one was something about loafers. The loafer softens his tone or something was one of them, and then the other one says the loafer is harsh or something like that. But like I'm reading it, and I'm just like, they are the ones that dictate. They are the ones that they have an opinion,
Mm-hmm.
and they're trying to make you
Actually, an agenda on either side.
an agenda for sure, for sure. But they're trying to force that on you, and since we don't want to do research and we don't want to educate ourselves, then we just buy into what somebody says,
Right.
and that's just not it's not right. And even with preachers and teachers of the word. The word is a living word because it's how God uses it to speak to you, not how someone else necessarily interprets it
for you.
Right. There is an interpretation that I'm going to hear on Sunday that is going to hit me somewhere somehow. But there's probably more in the text if I go back and read it myself that God can fix me with if I choose to go educate myself. So as far as like we wonder about these taxes and all these things that are coming out, we need to educate ourselves on this. And I think that this is a not just a godly thing. It's a human survival thing at this point because there's so much poverty is rising. I know they want to paint this picture that the economy is booming and all this bunch of crap, but if we're not educating ourselves, man, we're running toward a hurting. You know what I mean?
Well, I think going back to the money issue, we have to take care of our own money. We don't need other people to tell us how to do it. We need to look at our budget and fix it, okay?
Right.
And make the hard choices to say, I don't need this, I don't need that. I'm going to cut that out. I'm going to start saving some money because you will eventually need it. In the hard times, what if you didn't save it? Okay, you don't have it. Right? So if you save a little here, a little there by making a few choices, I'm not going to eat out this time. I'm not going to buy the extra cable package or phone package or whatever. If you cut some things out, you don't have to cut everything out, but little tiny choices along the way make all the difference.
Right.
Absolutely. We were talking about, with the business and everything, like I'm trying to get myself in the habit of saving receipts now so that when things start happening, then I can be in the habit of that already. And I think what you're talking about, if you set a budget now, we all made some type of resolution or something we're going to do different for the year that's going to fade out in a while. But was it 21 days makes a habit? Is that what they say?
Mm-hmm.
So if you go for 21 days of saving $5 or whatever it's going to be, come summertime, when everybody's going on vacation and getting to do stuff or whatever, you can be in that boat too, or you can get your kids something extra, or, think about where you were at this time last year. The majority of us come January into February, we're all pretty much in the same boat, but now's decision-making time.
Right.
Am I going to put back some money so I can, what do you say? Mr. Page, my old band director, he said, don't trade what you want later for what you want right now. Do what you have to now so you can do what you want to later.
Because remember, if you save money, there is compounding of interest and all that. So you're not just saving the principal amount, but you can be saving the other, or even investing at some point, okay, and getting capital gains and dividends and all the other things that go with it. And all of a sudden it starts growing.
Well, and that's the thing that we don't really teach about tithing. Because I think once what I truly believe is if you are consciously tithing the way you're supposed to, you are investing in a blessing, because you're being, not only, it's not about the money, it's about the obedience. And training yourself to be obedient in times where you think that you can't. And it's about relying on God in an instance to where you haven't ever done that before. So if you do this and you do this for 21 days plus, you're training yourself not to give money to a church, but to be obedient to God. And so later on, next fall or whatever, when something crazy happens, well, you're already in this habit of being obedient to God, and you're already in the habit of seeing yourself be blessed because of this. So that's just going to be something natural. So when the thing comes where you normally would have acted out of character, now you're in a habit of being obedient, and you're going to see a different outcome.
And there's another aspect to acquiring money and saving and that type of thing. How are you going to help your brother if he's hurting if you don't have anything yourself?
Right.
Okay. If you save money up, it could be that you can give $50 to that person that is in need.
Right.
Whereas if you didn't save the money, you wouldn't have it.
Right.
So there's a lot to that too.
What was the story, Joseph?
What story?
Well, you read the dreams, right?
Yeah.
And with the skinny calves and the wheat fields and all that. So he told the king, he was like, you better stock up.
Stock up, right.
Because you're going to go through 7 years of famine.
Right.
That's what I was thinking a while ago when you were talking about your band guys. Unfortunately, we as Americans now just live in today's culture, period. We don't think about future, most of us.
Microwave society.
We want it right here, right now. What is today going to bring? If we don't plan and think about what the future is going to bring, then we're not going to save.
Right.
Because we're too busy satisfying right now.
Right.
And that's what we all do, is satisfy us right now. When the future comes and we don't have anything, what are we going to do? We really need to change our mindset about thinking long term. What does the future hold for long term? And what do I need to do to change my perception and quit with my right now spending?
So what is, if you guys are just joining us or listening or just tuning in, we're kind of talking about, it's tax time and our budgets and money and tithing and how it all kind of ties in. We set a budget and give God our first fruits and rely on Him to make the remaining be sustainable for us. What will that look like? And so here's the thing, what you were just talking about, we are a here and now society and we want it now, blah, blah, blah. But I can remember, and I can almost guarantee that you two heard the same thing from your folks. You better save some money, you better put something back, you better have a little something to fall back on in case blah, blah, blah. I didn't do it. You didn't do it. I don't know, Jeff got a little something he ain't talking about. But
I think Jeff's got a little something he ain't talking about. I think he's a little smarter than the average bear.
The majority of us haven't done that.
Right.
So to come to a realization now,
right.
How do we convey that to someone else? How would we go about, you know what I mean? Because my grandfather, I distinctly remember Frank trying to tell me, because he was all about saving some money. I mean, this dude, he got so mad when we go to McDonald's and get a plain cheeseburger. Oh, man, well, you need that? You don't need to eat. I remember one time.
No cheese for you.
I remember he cooked me breakfast one morning. Yeah, 1 egg. It was one piece of toast. Like that's what he did, man. Frank was that dude, man. It was so funny. Looking back, it was funny.
It's like, here, I'm feeding you, not to fatten you.
Right.
I'm here to make sure you make it through. I ain't trying to fatten you up.
You better not waste nothing either, boy.
That's right.
Cheese and rice. But what could we do? And I mean, like, first, I guess we have to be our own guinea pig.
Absolutely.
We got to do it to be able to do it.
You have to do it. If you can't do it yourself, you sure can't give somebody else the tools of how to do it if you don't have it mastered. So what's the thing is you have to really buckle down and figure it out. This is what I'm going to do, period, and learn how to do it.
Well, again, I think it comes down to a plan. You have to set up a plan of what you're going to do, or you're not going to know which direction you're going.
And then don't be fickle on it. You have to stick to your
discipline.
Plan.
That's true. That is very true. I remember Granny had set up, I was thinking about this the other night. Granny had set up little savings accounts for me. I think I was older. I think Clint, my brother, had kids, and I think she set them up for the kids or something. The kids and me, maybe. Anyway, I remember whenever Granny was getting older, Mama was consolidating a lot of things. So she was shutting down accounts and blah, 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 you know, and making everything just one. So whenever they passed, it would be easier to whatever, you know. So I remember her asking Clint if he wanted that money that was in there. Granny got a Social Security check and I don't know, not a pension, but she got something anyway. And so she would do that off top. Bills get paid. We're throwing this in savings type stuff. Blah blah blah. Tied to the church, and the rest is what we live off of. You know, and she would try to, you know, once a month. We would all the grandkids, you know, she hooks up a little something, you know, take something, do a little something special. But I remember Mom giving Clint that money, and I think I even got my money or Mom took it or something. But I think that's the biggest thing, is having that self-control,
Right.
and that being one of the fruits of the Spirit, and it talks about in Galatians. Self-control is a ton of things.
Yes.
If I had any say about it, to me, that's the number one fruit of the Spirit. If you have self-control, I feel like you can do all the other stuff. You know what I mean? And I can love you properly if I have self-control over myself. I'm not going to take it too far. I'm not going to be a butthole. I'm not going to, you know what I mean? But to have self-control over finances at this point, that's a difficult thing. It is such a difficult thing. And like I said, I think it just takes you getting into a habit.
A 1,000-mile trip starts with the first step. Okay, you have to have a movement forward. And I think in finance, the number one thing is to set up a budget. Find out what you spend. You were talking about saving your receipts.
Mm-hmm.
Save your receipts for a month and look at them.
Mm.
It will say, I spent this much at the
Makes
grocery
sick.
store, this much in dining, this much in electronics, all that. It will tell you what you did. You might get a program like Quicken or something and just enter them in. It'll give you an income statement with income and expenses, and you can look at it and say, I spent 22% on dining.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, it should be 5.
Right.
Okay.
Well, and here's one thing that I know I'm completely guilty of. And I look at it as, well, I'm just going to spend $5 here, or I can spend $10 there.
Same.
But just using the Kroger's app, which is great, because I hate going to the grocery store.
It's renowned.
I use that app and I get it to where I can pick up the groceries and I don't have to go in. Or the other day, I paid the extra $5 and had it delivered to my house. I didn't have to do anything but push buttons on my phone. But with that, there was $10 that went away that could have been used for something else,
Mm-hmm.
which just proves what I was saying is we live in a right now, let's do me scenario, and let's not think about the future and what the future holds.
Right.
What could have that extra $10 done? So, I mean, I know there's plenty of things in my budget that I could restructure and do better.
But people don't know what those are unless they see it on paper.
Right.
Very true.
Okay.
Mhm.
Very true.
I mean, they're spending it as they do it, but they don't know where that money went.
Right.
You couldn't.
Where did
Tell
all
the
my
person.
money go?
Right.
Kroger's
Yeah,
delivery.
Or wherever. I mean, I'll tell you, electronics is a big thing.
Yes.
Cable and telephone and all that. People spend an inordinate amount of time and money on that. Time, too.
Yes.
Okay. How
Absolutely.
much? What could you do with an extra 2 hours a day?
Today I can sleep.
Yeah.
I had a breakdown on the phone too, where that was. You say, I don't have, like somebody's like, I don't have the extra cash to go on this trip that I want to go on, but right next to it says, but I need the new iPhone.
Right.
You get the new iPhone. I don't have time to go to the gym. Oh, I'm going to sit and binge watch the new Netflix series. You know what I mean? Like, it's there.
Right.
But what are you doing with it?
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's exactly
No, you're
right.
totally, that's spot on,
All
Jeff.
these things interact. Okay. I don't go to the gym because I'm watching Netflix, so I gain an extra 5 pounds.
Right.
Okay, because I'm eating popcorn while I'm watching Netflix.
That
Right.
cost me $5 because I didn't want to go get it, so I had it delivered.
Yeah.
Exactly. But it's true. And one action brings another action. And it's usually not the action you really want.
No, definitely not. That's so crazy, man. That's an eye opener, Jeff, for sure. For sure. And I think that it goes to go all the way full circle, like I really think it goes back to if you the number one rule is seek ye first the kingdom of heaven. You know what I mean? So if you really think about God first, and whatever money you make, 10% is going to him,
Right.
no matter what. That you put in your mindset, not about the money, but it's about being obedient.
Right.
Being obedient to him.
Right.
And his system.
Right.
We were talking at Dion the other day about how our education system, everything is about buying into a system. Our education system, you go to school for years, they don't ever tell you how to be, to own your own business or to be successful by yourself. They teach you how to work for somebody. They teach you how to buy into a system and do what you're told. That's basically what you pay money for. If we are obedient to God and his system, we flourish because we are his kids.
Yeah.
And he is glorified through that.
And he gives you wisdom on things you should do.
Truth. So I think there's something to this, but we got to get the mindset, one, out of the here and now, and two, out of it being about money.
Absolutely.
The money's going to take care of it. That's what I was trying to say earlier. Like, you're going to figure it out. You're going to figure out how it works. And if you give God that time and that space to make it work, watch what happens.
Right.
It's life-changing.
It's something crazy. Well, I can attest to where I have let him in, and I guess like I just kind of got a realization of some of the things I haven't been letting him take care of. I haven't been letting him have control of.
Right.
But I can attest to things that I have let him have, and my life has changed astronomically.
Right.
You know, and just to go higher, let's try it out. I mean, what's it gonna hurt? I remember my buddy Taiwan. His mama was on here. I don't know if she's still on here or not, but I don't know if she ever knew this or not. But I love telling this story. My buddy, was 19 years old, working at Applebee's. I guess this was after he turned 20. He was a server, and so every night as a server, you know, you get cash tips. So he opened up his book one day, and he's got cash on one side and cash on the other side of his book. Usually, I keep all mine in my pocket because I screwed up one night and left my book full of money in the bathroom.
Oh, no.
Super lucky I came back and it was all still there. But because of that, I was like, never again. So I put everything in order. I have to have all my bills facing the same way.
I do too.
I'm weird like
I
that.
do too. I have
can't
to too.
stand it. Susie Orman says respect your money. She said to do that. Anyway, that's a whole nother thing. But so he had money on one side, money on the other. And I'm like, what's that about? And he said, that's my tithe side. And I was like, that's the real meaning of 10% off top.
Right.
Like every table he went to, 10% of his tip went to the tithe. And I'm like, wow. Like that's obedience, man.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And a 19-year-old kid in college.
Right. His mama raised him right.
Yeah, she did.
She gave him the plan to think of the future.
For sure.
For sure.
But that to him, it wasn't about the money.
Right.
It was about obedience. He wanted to be obedient to God because he knows what God's about. He lives it and he knows it. They had a killer story at Thanksgiving. I hope she's still alive. Anyway, he lost his keys. He was gonna come over. I stayed with his brother.
Yeah.
So he was gonna come over. No, we were gonna go play football. That's what it was. We were gonna go practice playing football. And he was all types of late or whatever. And he, when he finally got there, he said, "Man, I couldn't find my keys for nothing." And he's got a little lady, little princess, you know. And he could have swore, you know, she grabbed them and put them somewhere. He said he's found them in the hamper before and this, that, and the other. So they're tearing the house upside down. Can't find the keys. And his mom was like, "Let's put on some praise music. Let's just stop and just start and just pray." And for whatever reason, she walks over to the freezer, opens the door, and there they are in the freezer, man.
Wow.
And I'm just tripping. I guess what it had, they were on top of the fridge, and then when he opened it or something, they went fell in there. But the moral of the story is, from 20-year-old kid taking 10% off from his tips, putting it in his book, giving the first fruits, showing obedience, that's been his lifestyle.
Right.
And so little blessings like find the key, here's the keys,
Right.
may have saved him from a car wreck, may have saved you from anything, that God was watching out for. We don't know. But that act of obedience, when that becomes habitual, there are a ton of benefits.
Absolutely.
I think too, when we look at money,
We won't have to rely on the end of the year. So.
right? When we look at money, it all belongs to Him.
Mm-hmm.
He lets us use it. So how are we going to use it?
True.
Right.
It's not ours.
True. That's amazing. See, like, this has always been a thing because, like, I was back doing drugs and all this bunch of stuff, like, an insane amount of money we waste on drugs and alcohol and getting rides to and from, like, getting stuff, you know what I mean? Just all that bunch of stuff. And I'm talking, all right, $300 in 2 days at least, you know what I mean? Just an insane amount of money. And you think about how God's just looking at you. Like, this is what you're doing with what I gave you?
Right.
You know what I mean? Oof.
Yeah.
Ooh, that's
yeah,
tough.
that's tough. That is tough for sure.
He forgives, though.
Man, yeah,
Just-
thank
that's
goodness.
the beautiful thing.
Thank goodness.
That is the beautiful
Grace
thing.
and mercy follow me. Thank
Right.
you, Lord.
They're right beside me every day. Woo, thank you for
Appreciate
that,
that.
for sure.
Let's see what the Will has to say about it. I want to thank you, Jeff, for your input and teaching us some stuff this afternoon.
Well,
Really
Can you reach
appreciate it. Yeah, I can reach it. I think so. Thank you, I can grab her.
Dun, 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 dun,
Okay.
dun, dun.
Oh,
You're gonna tump it over.
Tump it over.
Tump it over. Ready?
All right, let's be Will. Yay!
One of these days we'll have Will music. I don't know when, but one of these days.
Until then, it's fake.
Romans 10:9.
10:9. If you have your Bibles with us, please turn with us to Romans chapter 10, verse 9. Chapter 10, verse 9.
So I got it. It's the NIV here. It says, if you confess with your mouth that Jesus is Lord and believe in your heart that God raised him from the dead, you will be saved.
Dun, dun, dun. I think that is so awesome and so relevant to what we were saying. Because if we declare that we're going to give these things to him,
Right.
that is declaring him as our Lord. We allow him to be Lord in certain circumstances.
Right.
But like me, I have to be honest and be like, he's not Lord of my finances.
He's not Lord of my finances right now either.
So when I declare that, that's when maybe we'll find some
each step, right.
some clarity and some
It's how to quit putting yourself above all and start putting him above all. And so with each little area of your life, and we're talking about finances today, finances being the area of your life, where do you put him? Is he in the bottom or is he at the top? Where is he at? Does he fit somewhere in the middle? Where do we really need to? We need to focus on moving his position to where it belongs, and that's as Lord of all.
if you go to church and if when the basket comes around, you're like, oh snaps, if that's a thought, he's not head of that area in your life for sure.
Right.
That's me.
Right.
I'm like, oh man, I didn't bring any cash today, or oh man, I didn't, whatever. Well, you know that you have to tithe every week, and you know that this is a thing. So understanding that when that basket comes around and you're not prepared, whatever, well, you don't let him be Lord of that area.
Right.
You talked about obedience, and I've like was going to write out a tithe check, for example. And sometimes he'll say, add another 25
Mm-hmm.
above the tithe, okay? That doesn't always happen. He doesn't always ask that.
Right.
But when he does, I've learned, do it,
Yes.
okay? I've also had the opposite happen, interestingly enough. He'd say, take $10 off the tithe. You don't have, instead of paying 50, you pay 40.
Right.
Because he told you to.
Right.
And I asked my pastor about that one time. He goes, well, maybe that was something someone else was supposed to give.
Mm.
And if you gave it, then that person didn't get the blessing, you know,
Right.
whatever. The point of the matter is obedience.
True.
Do what he asks you to do. He may know, okay, Frank's going to have an extra bill this month. He doesn't have to pay that extra $10 or $20. He may tell you that. Okay.
Here's the thing. What are we really saying when we don't put him first? I mean, we don't trust you is what you're saying.
True.
I don't trust
Truth.
you
True.
to make sure that I'm going to make it through this week or this month. You know, however, if you tithe on a monthly basis instead of weekly basis or a weekly basis, I don't trust you, Lord, to know that I'm going to make it through this month. I have to continue to depend on myself. That's what we're saying when we don't tithe.
Ooh, that's tough. Say it again, Kay.
Oh, I mean, I just got it all over me right now. It's really, it don't do you any good. You can't depend on yourself because you, as yourself, is going to fail.
Mm-hmm.
That's just who you are. You have to depend on him. And when we don't depend on him, we're not doing what we're supposed to do. We're not putting him as Lord.
When we don't have money to tithe the proper amount, think about what you spent the money on. You know what I mean? It's just like, oh, I shouldn't have done that. And like, so act like he's sitting next to you. It's like, you got my money?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, what'd you do with my money?
The biggest bill collector there is.
Oh, man. Well, I bought some honey buns at the gas station, and I got some Chex Mix. And, oh, man. Yeah, that's nuts. That is really
Again,
nuts.
he forgives people for the errors that they make. Okay?
Well, that is true. He does.
But we could be proactive
Right.
and not make the error.
Right.
For sure. That's one thing I was talking about last night with Dion is we have to learn to stop being reactive in our life, period, when it comes to God. We have to be proactive. We have to know he's got you covered. If you look at your life and know that he's been there and he's covered you in every aspect, then why can't you look at life and see proactively that he's going to be there for whatever comes up in the future?
Right.
You know, I was thinking about today, like there are certain people, you know, Jeff is super knowledgeable, you know what I'm saying? Like I'm a boisterous go-getter, whatever, you're overcaring and all that. We have these different attributes about ourselves. There are people who don't have those that need to be poured upon.
Right.
And so God needs to use us and pulls on us and tries to put us in situations where we can pour on these people so that everybody gets saved. And when we're selfish, when we don't do what we need to do, then we can't be blessed and we can't be in situations that he needs us to be in.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And that's kind of a generality or whatever. I like to get into that maybe some more next week. But, dude, there's just so much that's flooding my head right now. It's just like, wow. Like, really, really seeing, like, this is a...
That's why the interaction of the body within each one talking to one another.
Yeah.
How we learn from each other. You know, nobody has all the information.
Right.
Right.
We all have bits and pieces of that information. And when we interact, that's when everybody gets helped.
We come to community and actually be the kingdom of people, kingdom of God.
Like Frank was talking about the community of Christ.
Right.
That's how we help people.
Truth. Very much so. Goodness, that's great. Guys, tune in next week. We'll be back at noon or here on Wednesday. Again, I want to give a shout out to my man Al Watts, the owner of Victory Janitorial Services. They clean commercial. They do commercial cleaning, sanctuaries, auditoriums, things like that. Don't let floors be your chore. Call your pal Al, 859-802-0473. That's your buddy Al Watts. Don't let floors be your chore. Call your pal Al. Anyway, we'll be back next Wednesday at noon here on 1320 AM WCVG, The Voice.
Bye.
Yeah. Okay.
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 Anyway.